Katie, we good to go? Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting governing board to order. Please stand if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Obviously, everybody saw we have a bit of a long agenda, but we'll go along. I'd like to say there is a quorum present. We have all members except for Sharon present in the room. Sharon is on the phone directly. Is that correct, Sharon? Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Okay. Approval of the minutes from a regular governing board meeting of November 19th. Is there any conditions or corrections? Seeing none, they'll be posted as written. There are no recognitions this month. We put this aside for January. We didn't want people coming in with COVID coming into our meeting, so we're trying to be as appreciative of our residents and our employees as possible. Housekeeping update from me, January 13th, mid-year meeting at Palm Ridge. It will be remote, will be a video cast. That is number one on there. Number two, there's been bubbling up of things that have come up. A number of my board members have been corrected about political signs being on property. One of the things we just realized is that if you're an HOA, the HOA takes precedence over it. If you're not an HOA, Maricopa County takes precedence over it. However, we will be revisiting this at our workshop in January. Okay, and I think that's all we got as far as housekeeping. Oh, yes. I can't hear you, Karen. Will you clarify if staff of the board are present for January 13 or remote? We'll probably be remote as we see as our COVID numbers continue to bubble up. And Bill has a little update on COVID a little farther down our list. Okay? That's enough housekeeping for me. EOM reports. Jim Young. Jim Young, I think it was a motion to accept the consent agenda. That was very polite. Thank you, Jim. Is there a second on that? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Okay, moving right along. We're on to number 6. Reports. Ann Brown, you're next with the filings.
Thank you. The November 2020 financials have been reviewed and accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee, and they have been filed.
Thank you very much. It's all online. I'm sure everybody can see that. It's been filed. Bill, you're next up with an exciting COVID update.
I wish it was, sir, but thank you for the time. No slideshow this week. There's really not been a change since the last time we have met, other than the fact that the numbers continue to rise, not in our favor, when it comes to Maricopa County COVID numbers. As of yesterday, approximately 6,000 new cases, not a good sign, 147 deaths within Maricopa County, and the state numbers have us at 11.3%, but there are other websites that you can attend to and those numbers are closer to 20%. So it's raging a little bit. We are, again, listening to the benchmark numbers. The governor spoke yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No real news from there other than additional funding for the medical resource people. Next Thursday, we're anticipating numbers to come out. And as we sat last week, we were within a shade of the health department's recommendations to close fitness centers and those types of things. So we are awaiting to see what numbers look like next week, but our hands might be forced at that point to look at some additional closures of indoor facilities.
Thank you, Bill. One of the other questions that I have for you, I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, I've had a number of emails from people wanting to know what the recreation center is doing about distributing the vaccine. Basically, what I've been saying to them is that is Maricopa County Health, not us. Yeah. However, if Maricopa County in any point wanted to ask us for the use of our facilities for something, that will come through you.
That is correct, and Katie's already been communicating with the county and the health officials. All of our 4 rec centers, we've offered up as far as potential uses. The recommendation from Maricopa County and Department of Health is that the pod system that they're going to be using for the distribution of vaccines is being established and set up as we speak between Grandview Golf Course and the hospital in the medical area parking lot out there. So if you drive by, you may see some tents being erected, or they may be up by now anyway. But that's
Thanks, Bill. That was just a quick question on that one. One other thing, I am going to put you doubly on the spot. We are making sure we're protecting our employees as best we possibly can. I know there's been quite a few of our emails and distribution out there that we're trying to make sure anybody that can do anything online at membership services is available to do that, and we're trying to move to an appointment only until this COVID thing is out there. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, sir.
Okay, and to all those who are listening, who are going to re-listen to this, please, if you do not need to go up to membership services, make an appointment, call them up. 99.9% of the stuff can be handled over the phone, and is for not only for your protection, but the protection of our employees. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Yes, sir. I just, again, membership can get a bit crowded, and we just want to make sure that in that confined space that we have up there, we can't do a lot of the work that we need to do from home, so we need people on site, so we need to keep our numbers down.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that the constituency knew that. Jim, you got a question about this?
I do. Bill, I've been contacted by a dozen or more people that have been tested positive for COVID. The next 3 or 4 days, they were tested again negative. So my question is, if somebody's tested positive and they really don't have this stuff, does it get taken off the numbers, or does the numbers just build up?
They build up, sir. It's, once you're positive, you remain positive. I'm not sure the accuracy of once you're tested positive, do you then show negative? Your antibodies would be there, so you're a positive test. Again, it's more of a question laid out for the medical professionals, but, you know, we just want to make sure that if you are testing positive and you're not feeling well and you are sick, please isolate yourself and not stop spreading this thing.
Well, just to add to that, these people aren't sick. I mean, that's the other problem, the people I'm talking to, but they still test positive, so I don't understand it.
Thank you. Jim, anything else? Roberta?
I had a question. If the governor isn't shutting down gyms, why would we?
There is a mandate that has been in place since August with the governor and the Arizona Department of Health that have laid out guidelines and rules that we had to attest to, that we will abide by the rules that he had put in place back in August. So in fact, he did close down gymnasiums and the like, but when the numbers, after the closures, then when the numbers started to drop again, things were reopened with the understanding that if the numbers got to various levels above the certain benchmarks, we would reclose. So the orders are there. It's just a matter of getting the numbers to a point where, okay, it's time to close again.
Did I answer your question for you? Okay. Any other questions about this? Bill, thank you for your update on that. I appreciate it. We're going to go into my favorite thing, number 7, new business. And boy, is it a laundry list out there. I think my first 7.01, I think this is my Vice President, Ms. Fitzsimons.
Yes. After discussion by the governing board, I move that the governing board approve the in-gross revisions to policy C01, parentheses, standing and special committees, parentheses, to update and clarify policy language and directives as redlined.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. I got a second from Ann. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, I will ask for a vote on this. All those in affirmative say yay.
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 All in opposed, nay. Hearing none is unanimously approved. Okay, I'm just, and I forgot to do a little housekeeping on this one. All these policies and things have been vetted through our workshop, So if you have any other questions or comments about it, please feel free. Also, as we go through this, from the audience, if there are any questions or comments, please email them in so we can move forward with that. Okay, 7.02, Ann Brown. Well, you got a busy alignment there.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a quick update. The FI-12 subcommittee is still meeting. They have one purpose right now, and that is to draft and get approved an RFQ to hire a professional investment advisor for Sun City West. And they will be meeting again this week. I expect them to bring a finished product to our meeting on the 5th of January, and hopefully I'll have something to share with you at our next board workshop.
And just a question for me. What is an RFQ?
Request for quote.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions about 702? Hearing none, we're going to move along. And you're up again, once again, FI-13.
Thank you. Per the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve the in-gross revisions to policy FI-13, parentheses, collection policy, as redlined.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Jim. Is there any other discussion on this? Open for discussion? Hearing none. Voice vote once again. All those in favor, yay?
Yay.
All opposed? Hearing none, unanimously passed. Ann Brown.
Thank you. Per the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve the revision to policy FI-17, parentheses, asset preservation fee, into parentheses, at section 3.9 to remove the hardship clause as redlined.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Sue? Okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll go for a voice vote once again. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We have one opposition. Okay, motion carries. 7.05, this is Pete and Carl's show.
This, as you was recommended at the workshop, that the 1.8 approximately $1 million of deferred capital be released to issue purchase orders in the throughout the rest of the fiscal year.
Okay, first, do we have a motion to, before we can open the discussion on this, we need a motion in a second. I have a motion to move this for a vote? Bob will make that motion. Second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, we got plenty of seconds. People love seconds here. So do I love leftovers. Carl, it's your show. You guys, the capital expenditure list here is in front of you. It's open for discussion, and I'm going to ask Pete.
George, if I may, please. Just a
Yes, Sherry, go
question-
right ahead.
Just a question of procedure. I thought the board had approved these, but asked administration to please put them on the backside until they saw what was happening with the budget and income, and that we've already approved it. If I'm wrong, fine, but I didn't think we needed to do that.
I thought so too, and what we wanted to do is, because we said we deferred this, okay, we put it into our budget, and what I wanted to do is make sure that our constituency and us are moving along, that we're not just rubber stamping something that's out there. We're going to move forward with a vote to release these funds based on our financial situation.
Thank you.
No, not a problem. Pete, I have a question for you on this one. It says 1.790872 approximately. This was included in the original budget and just deferred. This is not any more addition. This has already been approved for it. We just want to release the funds. I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. There's no addition. Okay, Jim?
Remind me, Pete, is this the extent of it, or are there still some that are held back?
This is it?
This is all of it? Thank you.
This is all of it. Is, any other questions or discussions about this? Okay. Okay, here none. We need just a voice vote on this to release these funds.
Are we going to take them all together?
Yes, it's in mass.
One of them that I don't like.
Okay, well, this is part of the approved budget, Jim.
I understand, I still don't like it.
You can say,
Didn't like it then, and don't like it now.
okay, well, which one would you don't like?
Well, I can't read it on here, and I can't read it up there, but if it's the one about the enclosing Beardsley,
It's not on here, Jim.
thank you, then I'm all for it.
Okay, that was a statement that was made that it was on there, and it was not. It was originally stricken correctly. We go back to the original budget, it was 0, 0.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, Carl?
I'm ready.
Was never on there.
Never on there. Okay. Once again, we need I'd like this one to be just an individual vote around the board. I'll start with Jerry. Yes. Sharon?
Yes.
Roberta?
Yes,
Ann?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes,
Donna?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, unanimously consent to release the funds moving forward. Next guy up, Bob Canaro. You got 1, 2, 3. You got a lot, Bob.
I finally did something, right? Is that what you're saying,
I didn't
George?
say that out loud.
Yeah, okay, sure. Okay. Upon recommendation of the Golf Committee and discussion with the governing board, we move to amend in gross policy CO3, section 1.4.4 as redlined. Basically, all we asked is that take out the word governing board out of there because the recommendation for any capital projects goes to the general manager, not to the governing board.
Okay, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second. Any further discussion about this? Hearing none, voice vote, please. All those in the affirmative, yay?
Okay.
All opposed? All opposed, nay. Okay, hearing that, unanimously passed. Bob, G1.
Okay, upon recommendation of the Golf Committee and discussion of the governing board, I move to amend in gross the amendment to golf policy G01 as redlined. This is the one where we had a lot of words in it that didn't need to be in it, and it's how the funds are refunded.
Okay, do I hear a second for this motion?
I'll second.
Second? A second from Sue? Okay, discussion, yes.
he didn't mention what the policy does, and for the audience, he should.
Okay, well, under discussion, we can have that. Bob?
Yeah, well, this has to do with how a person are refunded on the golf cards that they buy, the discount golf cards that they buy.
Okay, and this was something that cropped up. We hadn't had this question before, and when we looked at the language, it was really needed to be redone. So, any other discussion about this? Questions? Hearing none, voice vote once again. All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, nay? Hearing none, unanimously passed. Bob, once again, you're up to number 3,
What are we on, GO3, right?
GO3.
Okay. On recommendation of the Golf Committee and discussion with the governing board, I move that we amend in gross changes to golf policy GO3 as redlined. This was mainly just on taking the section on the golf course usage, and we moved it into another section because it didn't belong really under maintenance.
Okay. Do I hear a second to this motion?
I'll second.
I got a second from Donna. Discussion about this. Any other discussion about this? Hearing none, once again, we'll go for a voice vote. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, unanimously carried. Bob?
Okay. Upon recommendation of the Golf Committee and discussion with the governing board, I move that we amend in gross the changes to golf policy G07 as redlined. This one is where we put in the golf course usage in there, and we also took out of there the word and/or governing board we're recommending, because there shouldn't be two different places to go when activities are going to be on a golf course. It's the general manager's job, he's the head of operations. So we wanted to take out governing board and just leave in there that the general manager makes that decision.
I need a second to this motion, please.
Second.
Second by Ann. Discussion? Sue?
Okay, I'm not understanding why would we take out governing board? Because I see that there are some situations that we would want to be in the loop. And I
Well-
think if you say and/or, it leaves that option
Well,
available.
one of the things that we discussed and was brought up in our discussion of the meeting is, you know, you go to the general manager and you want him to ask him to do something, he says no, and then you can turn around and go to the governing board. That's like you're getting a second shot, you should,
Yeah,
on just
well,
one.
I agree, you shouldn't, that
Yeah.
shouldn't happen. So maybe it's a matter of wording.
I wouldn't know how else to word it. I think it's just easier this way. I mean, the governing board, I guess, the general manager still answers to the governing board, but he makes the first decision. It's his decision. That was our feeling, anyway.
Sue, anything else?
No.
Okay. Any other discussion about this? And Sue, to your point, I was in that meeting, and one of the things that they did talk about is that they're looking for a point of contact. And realistically, when it comes to just with golf operations as a whole, the general manager and Pat, who's the head director of golf, oversee that, and they put their blessing on whether they're going to have a tournament or whatever. And I thought the one point of contact was the best way to be. Just my own thoughts. Is there any other discussion on this? Hearing none, voice vote. Once again, all those in favor, yay?
Yay.
All opposed? Hearing none, unanimously passed. Bob?
Okay. Upon the recommendation of the governing board and discussion with upon recommendation of the golf committee and discussion of the governing board, I move that we move to amend in gross golf policy G10 as red line. This had to do with just getting some terms that are no longer viable, if you want to call it in there, such as controlled neighborhood play. There is no such thing anymore as controlled neighborhood play, so we just changed the words around and cleaned it all up.
Do I hear a second to this motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this? Jerry?
Yes, please. Bob, why are tenant card holders considered public player card holders?
Well, I think as I had put to you, I think what the problem there is public player is someone who doesn't live within Sun City West.
Right, and
or
tenant
area.
card holders live
And
within.
tenants live, they also pay a fee if they get a tenant card. And so that's why they're included in as a resident, because then they'd be entitled to any discounts that we give to residents.
And Bob, I completely agree with where you want the policy to be, but 1.2 does not include, it includes tenant card holders as public player because the definition is persons who are non-members. Tenant card holders are not members, or owner members and they're associate members. They are tenant card holders. And so I think that the term you're looking for is the one you used in 1.1, which is non-residents, not non-members in 1.2. And that is the suggested change I'm making.
Jerry, just for my edification, if a tenant, there may be somebody who is a renter here for 10 years, 15 years, or whatever, consistently, because they don't own that property, and this is their only address, does that make them a resident? Or, like my dad always used to say, when I was a kid, he said, how do I get the mail here? And he says, well, you get mail every day. There's the difference between resident and occupant. and he used to give me the occupant one. But I don't know how that would be worded in there. I understand what you're saying, but
It's a very quick fix because we have the term used in 1.1 right above it, which is non-resident. Because tenant card holders with owner members and associate members are residents.
okay.
And so my simple suggestion to you, Bob, and the board, is that we change the word who are non-members to who are non-residents of RCSCW.
Bob, is this is going to come back to you. Do you want us to amend this? Do you want us to pull it and send it back to your committee?
No, I think we were in agreement. Just the wording, I don't think will change it. This is just cleaning it up, so I don't think it'd be necessary to go back.
All right,
to
so
the
what, Bill, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the language as is was discussed in the Golf Committee, and I think it's fine. I just want to make a point that we do have residents in Sun City West that are non-members.
None of them are members. What you're saying, I believe, Bill, is they don't hold a tenant card. Is that correct?
Or an owner, or a membership card.
An associate card.
Not,
Well, we're talking about just tenants here. And some tenants will have a tenant card, and some choose not to. But the ones who hold a tenant card, I think, should be included as residents in the same way we did in 1.1. That's all.
Pat O'Hara, I know you're standing up. Come on up and weigh in on this.
Good morning, everyone. So we're talking about 1.2, correct?
Yeah.
So public player card holders are defined as a person who are non-members of the RCSCW. So we have a public player card that we issue, and that gives non-residents who live outside the community the opportunity to book tee times online 4 days in advance. So I think what I'm reading here is that that's trying to define that we have people in our database that are non-residents and they are non-members.
With respect, you just used both terms. If a person holds a tenant card here, do you want them to be public player card holders, or resident card holders?
So my understanding is if you've got a tenant card, you would be considered a resident.
And that's my suggestion, Bob. We change the phrase from non-member, because tenants are not members in our bylaws and policies. They are tenants. Only owner members and associate members are members. And so I'm suggesting that we use the same term that was used in 1.1 of this policy, which is non-resident. That way we pick up the tenants along with the associate members and the owner members and make sure they are not considered public player card holders.
So tenant card holders are not public player card holders in our world.
Yes, that's what
Correct.
I'm trying to get to.
So if I understand it right, a tenant card holder has their own unique number. There would be no need, because they've got benefits beyond a public card holder in the form of they could book tee times 7 days in advance, while my public card holder can only book it 4 days in advance.
My understanding is we give them the same use of the facilities that we give associate and owner members by virtue of it. And this would be one more use of the facilities that we afford them, 7 days rather than 4 days.
Folks, I think there's, Jerry, I understand what it is. I think there's some confusion on this and what it is. I'd like to send this back, Bob,
Okay.
committee,
All right.
and this way we can straighten it out,
Thank
have it come back to our workshop, and have it done that way. So with that, Bob, one of the things I do need you to do is just withdraw the motion.
Okay, withdraw the motion to amend golf policy G10.
Thank you very much. All right. Awesome. 1, 2. Now comes the big ones. Donna Maloney's up.
Thank you, President George. Per the recommendation of the Charter Clubs Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve revisions to the language of Policy C03, Standing Committees of the Governing Board at Section 1.3.5 to remove the words "and Governing Board" as redlined.
Do I hear a second to this motion?
I second.
And a second? Okay, discussion. Hearing none, voice vote, please. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered, unanimously. Donna, 7.12.
Per the recommendation of the Charter Clubs Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve the in-gross revisions to capital projects, financials, club RR&Ps as redlined.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ann. Okay, discussion. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none, I will go for a voice vote on this. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered unanimously. Donna, you're up again, if I remember correctly.
Per the recommendation of the Charter Clubs Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve the in-gross revisions to club memberships, RR&Ps as redlined.
Okay, do I have a second, please?
Second.
I got a second. Okay, any other discussion about this, please? Jerry?
Donna, I notice it's used in Roman numeral 7A. It talks about membership participation rate of 75% as measured by.
Jerry, I'm going to interrupt you. This is RR&P's club membership. This is not the 75% one. We're on RR&P's Chapter 1 prerequisites for a club formation.
Do I have the wrong one, George?
Yes, you do.
Okay, my apologies.
Not a problem. Listen, that's why we have a little separation on this one, because we have coming up on that 75%. Our recreation manager is going to give us a dissertation about that. Okay. All right. Any questions about this? Yes.
I don't understand. It was always, we had it defined how many members a club had to have. By taking out the numbers, it gets very confusing. Then you have to refer to a different section.
This is a minimum membership rate, not
It doesn't even list what minimum is.
Well, that's the question that we have there, is that when we get underneath it in the next section, it'll describe what participation and membership
But
being
don't
married
you
together.
think that should be at the beginning, that in order to form a club, you have to have X amount of members?
Well, that is in there. The portion above that would be on this. What they're doing is they're saying that their paid membership of not less than 80%, because what we're trying to get to is people who want that will get enough people to have a membership originally, and then immediately they go and they
But
keep it at 80%.
There's no number.
Well,
Do
sure
I
there is.
need 100 members?
Roberta.
Do I need 25? Do I need 75? What do I need to form a club?
That's in above that. It's not part of this one. This is going in there is a prerequisite. Let's just read it. As long as an existing club maintains, and this is again, not to form, it's maintaining, okay? Its minimum membership rate, okay? It will continue to retain its charter. Clubs that fall below that minimum as reported on their annual membership roster, CR 15, will be notified, and the Recreation Activities Manager will assist the clubs in an effort to bring the membership up to the minimum level. Now, if we're talking about what you need to form a club, that's already in another definition above this.
But that's
So
not
may-
there.
Okay?
This is Roman numeral 2. In Roman numeral 1, it specifically defines that,
Should have been part of this, just,
well, it is. This is Roman numeral 2. Roman numeral number 1 does identify what the minimum requirement is for social, and non-craft.
Okay.
Roberta, does that answer your question? I want to make sure,
Just for everybody's peace of mind, Donna, what is the minimum number?
For social, it's 75, and for non-craft, or I'm sorry, craft, it's 50.
Thank you.
You're
60,
welcome.
right? 60? It's
No,
60.
it's 50. Riley?
It's
I'm
60.
corrected, it's 60.
Okay, I got lucky.
Thank you.
I was reading the
You
numbers.
better go out
wrong
and get a
here.
lottery ticket.
Come on, 7.
So do you,
Okay, Sue, go right ahead, please.
so do you have Roman numeral 1 that you could read to us?
Sure, while that's going on, we'll continue on this. One of the things is to include all the things that go with each one of these changes. We'd be putting a lot of trees out of business. So, but no, she'll have it under, I know Donna has this in gross on there. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Sue.
So as I'm understanding it, and that's why I'm asking her to look that up.
Okay,
you're
I have it.
Trying to get rid of the repetitive comment about the numbers because that was already happening in number 1.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I can quote you Roman numeral 1, and this is under, again, the prerequisites for club formation. Specific procedures and guidelines pertaining to the acquisition of a club charter are identified in RR&Ps Chapter 2. Applications will be considered only when a non-craft club has 75 paid-up first-year members or when a craft club has, and my copy here says 50 paid-up first-year members.
Okay. Does that satisfy? Question about that? Okay. Okay, well, you're just, for clarification, it could have been there. Okay, we're fine with that. Sue?
So then we have one document saying 50 and we have Riley saying 60.
Okay, I will jump out and I will get that directly.
Although I will say it's not relevant for the discussion in front of us.
Yeah.
That's correct.
There is a
Right.
number,
That's-
and it will be taken care of either way.
Right,
Right.
okay, absolutely. Okay, is there any other discussion about this? Okay, hearing none, once again, we'll go for a voice vote. A, is it affirmative? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Hearing no nays, it is unanimously passed. Next update, 7.14, participation. James Riley, it's all about you.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Katie O'Grady have a quick PowerPoint for you today. I'd like to start out by just a quote from Del Webb, one of his goals when he was creating Sun City West, and that is to foster a richly rewarding recreational, social, and cultural life. And the clubs play a major part in that, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to achieving that goal in Sun City West. In my research, I found out that the very first club was the Pioneers. This club, you had to have purchased your home prior to the end of December 1979. It was never considered a true chartered club, however, it apparently came with a lot of status, so it was pretty important that if you had bought a home prior to December in '79 that you join. Going to the first clubs in Sun City West is official chartered clubs. There was a handful that really kind of started the trend, and one being the Bicycle Club, which is still extremely active today, has numerous participants. Art Club is thriving. And then the Saturday Night Dance Club. I believe that actually took place in this very room. And that, of course, has evolved from just being one club to a plethora of clubs, everything from tap, jazz, rock and roll. So that's really branched out. And then, of course, the card clubs, they initially started out with bridge, canasta, and pinochle. And, of course, again, we have a wide variety of card clubs and gaming clubs today. Now that we look forward as to where we're at today, we have 104 chartered clubs. Tracking these clubs is extremely important for us. The reason for tracking the clubs for participation is kind of a why and a how. And why we're doing it is to legitimize the club membership roster. So the people that are in the club, are they actually involved with the club? Validation of participation, this is where the 75% comes in, by the club members. Establishing the best utilization for rec center resources. This includes staffing, cleaning, air conditioning, keeping the lights on, if you will. Best justification for space allocation. If we have a club that has, say, 100 members, yet they tend to have a daily usage of about 25 people, perhaps we can find a little smaller venue for them to use and use a larger venue for clubs that are expanding. And then, of course, verification. Clubs are meeting the requirements for retaining a charter. This is where the 75% becomes very important. We do have some clubs that are meeting the minimum requirements for the number of members, and unfortunately, some of those clubs, the other 50% are spouses that never attend the clubs, and this is why it's important for us to track that type of participation. Currently, we are using the CR4, CR7, CR15, and staff counts to come up with these, validate these numbers, if you will. And if you see my little equation over to the right, it can get a little confusing. I'm just going to start with the CR4. The reason for the CR4, it's the member count attending daily. It's reported by the club monitor, so the auspice is on the club to give us these numbers. It's turned into my office on a monthly basis. The CR7 is the financial statement. This gives us a plethora of information, more than what's actually visual on the screen here, but a few of the things it includes is the amount of dues, how much it costs to become a member, the number of members that they have in the current year, the number of members that they had in the previous year, and it also gives us their income statement, new members for the year, and it also tells us who did not renew for that club. And then we go to the CR15. That's the membership roster. And the CR15, that's turned into my office on a yearly basis. It states whether it's a craft or non-craft club. It also includes all the members' names, their rec card numbers for verification that they are a member of the club. And then the roster is also used to make sure that the members have paid their annual dues, they're in good standing with Sun City West. And last but not least is the monitor count. This is one of our most reliable and accurate counts. It's done by the staff at each facility, and each facility is responsible for counting the members on an hourly basis. This gives us our best use for space allocation and to know exactly how many people are attending different clubs. This system has functioned for years. I inherited it when I took my position. I do find it to be antiquated. It's very time-consuming for staff to cross-reference these different ways of gathering information. And it tends to be a little bit less accurate as we're seeing continuous club growth. So it's a little harder for our staff to track down who's using the facilities all at certain times. So it's time to look towards the future. And Katie is going to be nice enough to enlighten us on where we're headed and how effective this will be.
All right, thanks, Riley.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to announce this next phase of our club software. We've been laying the framework for this for quite a while, getting the infrastructure in place. That meant hardwiring internet in every single club room that we have to enable this next step. So that was a long process. Our network engineer took advantage of the COVID closures and was able to get in those club rooms undisturbed and expedite this process. So we're getting it done this fiscal year rather than next fiscal year. So we're now in phase 2. All that hardwired internet is in place in the club rooms. It's functional, and the clubs have been taught how to use it, what devices they can connect to it. So now we're looking at the software that would enable Riley to virtualize what they're doing on pen and paper right now. So we looked at what we needed. We did an RFQ. Obviously, the big thing is to track how many people are using each club on a given day. And then we had a 2-layer verification. Are they in good standing with the rec centers, and are they in good standing with that individual club? We right now don't have any digital rosters that we can talk to or touch on in the database. So that's going to be a new addition, to have those 104 different clubs, the rosters in the computer. So after they verify they're in good standing with the rec centers, they check to see if that person can enter that club room at that time based on who's using that room. That was important because we do have a lot of shared space, so we couldn't, we had to design the software in such a way that if one club is in there for a couple hours and another club's in there for another couple hours, how are they going to share that hardware? How are they going to share that software? And make sure that those logins are attributed to the correct club. So that was part of it. And then we need to make it easy to use for club monitors. You know, we have challenges getting people to monitor in the clubs. If you add on now technology, some people are resistant and it may make it harder to have monitors. So we wanted the interface to be very easy, very intuitive, and that's what we're looking at on that. Obviously, some reporting functionality for the club so they can run their own reports on how many people have visited, and then additional reports for Riley and his team. That'll save a lot of time, I think, on the pen and paper calculations. And then we had to have different security roles. So we'll have probably at least 3 different security roles. One for the monitor, they're just going to have the basic ability to check people in and out. Probably some reporting credentials, so a higher level within the club can run those reports. And then Riley and his team will have a different security level. And then here on the IT team, we'd have the administrative rights, of course, and that will allow us to add new clubs, change the rosters if we need to. If we have to suspend a member, we can get in there and do that. So that's pretty common with any new technology, is having those different security features. We also wanted to look at a voting component. We weren't sure that any of the vendors would be able to put that together because it's a complicated thing to have 104 different members be able to vote online after verifying their membership, but we did get a positive bid on that. So that'll be the second phase of the software development, is allowing the clubs to have some kind of virtual voting, because that has come up hugely with COVID and everything else, and there's only going to be more and more requests for that. And then lastly, scalability. The one thing I know after all my years here is the minute you put something in, people want more. They want more functionality. Can it do this? Can it do that? So we wanted to go with a company that will grow with us, and that was one of the things we looked for when we chose the bid. So we did pick a vendor, and the first year cost is going to be $18,000. That'll include the training. We use what's called Train the Trainer. So they'll train us, and we'll turn around and train Riley and his team, and they can turn around and train the clubs. Includes the annual license, it includes configuration, all that different stuff. Some basic reports. Of course, we can add on reports later if we need to, and then the maintenance and support if we need that. And then, of course, the cost will go down every subsequent year. The annual licensing support will be about $11,500, which is not bad for 104 different clubs. In summary, we're going with some cloud-based software, which makes sense. These clubs are all in different places. They need to be able to access it, and we didn't want to put any more strain on our existing in-house server. So cloud-based software. We won't have to change out any of the rec cards. Those bar-coded rec cards will work just fine. And we have some additional scanners on site. We can buy some additional ones if we need to scan those barcodes. So it'll be really easy to check people in. We can use PCs, we can use tablets, we could even use phones with Bluetooth scanners. So depending on the club room and what their challenges are, if there's a mobile event out in the middle of a courtyard, so long as we have Wi-Fi, we can make that happen. And then the club voting, we are still sketching out exactly what that's going to look like, but that will be part of this build. Next steps, we have actually had the meeting with the vendor and Riley's team to make sure everyone has the basic details down. They're going to get to a probably 25% scoping it out, showing it to us, making sure it's what we're envisioning before they move forward on that. We don't have the deployment timeframe yet, but I don't think it's going to be that long, and it will be finished this fiscal year. And then lastly, I don't want everyone to get excited that this is coming tomorrow. I'm just putting it out there that what we envision as that scalability is one day we can open and unlock certain doors based on those club memberships and the validation and verification. So we, again, not scoped yet, but this software is capable of that, and the vendor does do that with other clients. So we're excited about that. So that is all I had on mine, and Riley and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Wow.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Riley. Director's comments. Sue, you're first on.
Fabulous. Fabulous. I think the time is right, and I appreciate all the study you've done, and It sounds like a great plan.
Donna, I know you were jumping in there. Go right ahead.
I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm like, this is so awesome for clubs, for staff. We are moving into the digital age, and I'm really excited about that. Sun City West needs to be in the digital age so that we can be that premier retirement community that everybody wants. Thank you so much.
Jerry? No? Morning, Sharon. Thank you for joining us.
Does the dog park work with this?
The dogs do not have recreation
Yeah, we
cards.
don't have
No, but the
Wi-Fi.
people.
We don't have Wi-Fi down there. Theoretically, if we really wanted to and we found a need, we could get a cellular-enabled tablet and have it down there, but it would have to be manned at that point. So it's possible. You have to weigh the cost versus benefit.
Okay, and so would it work just kind of like they do at the hotel when you can't get in and out of the pool, where you have to show your key card?
Yeah, that would require some infrastructure build, but anything's possible.
Okay, thanks.
Berta?
Well, that was my question. Would it work at the pickleball courts or the, some of the outdoor activities, like where they don't have like a clubhouse or anything?
So long as they have Wi-Fi, like if you were talking about the Kunst Courtyard or anywhere, so long as there's Wi-Fi, yes, it'll work fine. That's what it is. The dog park is specifically, it's probably about as far off-site from our campus as anything else. So that's just usually what it is. And like I said, I don't think our dogs have recreation cards yet.
But there's always the complaint about non-members using it, and this would be one way to control it.
And again, we can do our best, but you know what my statement always is, it's very difficult to control bad behavior. Thank
Remember,
you.
this is club software, and the dog park is used by non-club members as well. So this will lay that framework, but it's definitely not part of phase one, but we can get there.
That's good. Good. Ed, anything?
I just want to thank Katie and her crew and Riley for all that's happened, and I particularly see advantages in this to the club officers, and I think anything that can be done to make it easier for those officers is really in our favor, and especially with the reporting and the gathering of information. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, Katie, you went through it pretty quick, and does this put any stress on the monitors?
The club monitors or the rec monitors?
The club monitors that's monitoring the club.
Yeah, so that was part of the challenge. We want to make it as simple as possible. We are going to have to look at putting hardware in those club rooms that don't have it, and there will be some basic training, but it will be as easy as you log into a website. We'd probably have it shortcutted on the desktop. They'll have to enter a username and a password, and then it should just basically come up with the scannability. So at that basic level, people scan the rec cards, it logs the visit, and the monitor shouldn't have to do too much more than that.
Thank you.
Katie, if I may ask this question, would this be very, very similar to what our employees do? Let's say if there are the mini golf monitor or whatever, where they check people in, very similar?
That's a point of sale, so they have a selection of different items.
Yeah, but I mean the login, the process.
Yeah, it would almost be more like member validator.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Bob, on a memento.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that's great. It sounds fantastic. Just that I'm sure even though today everybody uses computers, boy, you guys got a job ahead of you probably trying to train some of these people to how to use technology now. But good work.
Yeah. Sue?
The good thing would be that if the system is the same, if you have 3 clubs that you monitor for, the procedure is going to be the same. So that's helpful, as opposed to now, some clubs have their own, and then a different club has a different system. So I think, once you get through that training process, then if it's the same at every club, you're good to go.
Awesome. Anything, Jim? I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, Katie, I know that the club check-in is future development, but that seems to be the most important part of the whole program that many clubs want. In fact, to the point that many of them have got their own system, and I understand that all of them are different. Are you going to be able to coordinate that so that all of them are the same?
So our intention is not to replace any software that clubs have. If they have software and it works for them and they're happy with it, we're not going to force them to use this software. This is pretty basic for those clubs that may be more hesitant to get into the software business. The check-in portion is the very first part, Jim. It's the door locking and unlocking that would be the next phase, because there's a lot of hardware installation that comes with that.
Thank you.
Folks, any other comments or questions for either Katie or Riley on this? Hearing none, thank you guys so much. Great job. Okay, next up on the list is 7.15, Donna Maloney. Oh, excuse me. I need to interrupt you. My bad. I was asked before I went into the RR&Ps and the prerequisite for club formation, Section 1. Specific procedures and guidelines pertaining to the acquisition of club charter are identified in the RR&Ps, Chapter 2. Applications will be considered only when a non-craft club has 75 paid-up first-year members, or when a craft club has 50 paid-up first-year members. Once a charter has been granted, the activity paid-up membership must remain above the minimum. So again, the number out there is 50. That's what's printed out there. So I want to make sure everybody knew that, because there was a question about 50 or 60. It is the big 50. Okay, thank you. Donna, you're right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Per the recommendation of the Charter Clubs Committee and after discussion by the Governing Board, I move that the Governing Board approve the in-gross revisions to club membership participation, RR&Ps, as redlined.
Okay, let's see here we got here. All right. Club membership participation, RR&Ps, Chapter 2, establishing club charters. Is that correct? Is that the one we're on?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a second to the motion. Is there discussion on this? As if I didn't know. Jerry?
George, I think I got the right policy in front of me this time.
That's good. Listen, with an agenda like this, it's easy to get which one.
Okay, I'm not sure who the best person is to answer, whether it's you or Riley or someone else. How do we calculate the membership participation rate of 75%? Is it 75% of the members coming once a month, once a year? I mean, just how are we calculating that?
I think Riley's behind me to answer this question directly.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. What we're looking at is participation. If someone, say they come to the 4 social events over the course of the year, we consider that participation. What we're really trying to weed out is if we have a club and 50% of the people don't attend any events whatsoever, and they're simply there as someone to hold a position so that they can retain a charter, we want to be aware of those type of situations. And it's not that we're out to disband clubs. It's so that we're aware that there is a lack of participation, so that people like Phil Doltry, we can go out and help the club either strengthen or find new ways to recruit new members, things of that nature, see how we can actually help them.
Riley, thank you. I'm fully supportive of all that you've said, but it kind of goes a little bit beyond that. So what I understand is the 75% rule is applied, attend once a year, at least. Okay.
At a minimum, yes.
But I know you've had a related problem of a club signing up spouses who then sign in and they go play golf. And so what we're really trying with a lot of this software is to figure out space utilization. How much space do they really need in contrast to whether people attend once or twice a year? So how are we going to get to that?
It's really validating that use. The component that we use, as I had mentioned earlier, that is the most reliable is our actual staff counting. And that will continue to happen because of the fact that there's also a safety element involved with that counting. It's basically putting boots on the ground, eyes in the rooms to make sure everyone, first off, is safe and taking that manual count.
my brain was jumping ahead because I was so excited what Katie was describing. So I was thinking, oh, whoo. But one of the problems and that I think your staff is already addressing is to go back, not just at the beginning, but during the use of it, to be sure there really are people there in the numbers that we thought were there. So that, again, we're trying to get to a good space allocation. This is not a punishment issue. This is a space allocation issue, and the real needs of clubs are being met.
Exactly.
Okay, and you're continuing to do that. Is there some system, Katie, I guess I should ask you, under the new system where they have to re-verify maybe halfway through the session so that we don't get this check in and go play golf routine that has happened so far with at least one club?
So I talked with Riley about whether we wanted to try to capture the duration of the visit. And I think that would lead to problems if people are in a hurry, they forget to check out, you're gonna have some bad data that'll screw up the numbers. So we did not try to measure the duration. You'll be able to measure visits, unique visits, visits by day, visits by week, visits by month. Once that data starts coming in and Riley's able to capture it and take a look at, okay, you had a special event and maybe the measurement is by that special event, you had 50% unique participation, let's get that up. Phil and he would work with those clubs to get it up. I don't think you have written down anywhere what that 75% participation is baseline in terms of, is that per day, is that per month, is that per week? But let us start capturing some of this data and then we'll be able to evaluate which clubs are really not up to speed. But with any kind of software, yes, could I collect 5 different rec cards and come in and scan them all at once every single day and those people aren't physically there? Absolutely. And that's going to be something we have to balance.
Jerry, if I may, on that one,
Of course.
we still continue to take manual counts hourly. And so if we're seeing a skew, because if the computer's telling us we got 50 people in the room and our manual counts on the hour saying we got 10, we have a problem. So there's either bad data or something, and that's what we focus on.
Oh, sure, I understand. And what Riley has been doing with his team does capture that. I wasn't sure if the new system would. But you're aware of the issue, and it really is a space allocation issue, not a bad club we're trying to catch you issue. Have we defined, Donna, where the membership participation rate of 75%, have we defined that anywhere in the RR&Ps? I heard what Riley said. I'm fine with that. But have we actually said what it is?
No.
Should we?
We believe, in discussion with staff, it's a club responsibility to determine that their membership is participating. And again, as Bill has expressed, and Katie as well, you know, there will be those unusual situations, and staff will have to address them the best that they can. I don't know that we could put a definition in the RR&Ps that could solve what you're requesting.
May I gently suggest that the RR&Ps define what is intended by 75% participation, so club members and club leadership will know what they're being held accountable to?
I have no issue with that whatsoever. Sue, go right ahead.
I agree with that. The RR&Ps are supposed to help the leadership of each of those clubs to know what it is they're supposed to do. So if they don't have any idea how this 75% is being collected, then that needs to be defined.
One of the things I'd like to just make sure that everybody is aware of, we've had discussions, obviously, with staff, with Donna, with charter clubs, and along the way. One of the first and foremost things we wanted to make sure everybody knew of is we are not here to take away somebody's craft or ability to do something, okay? What we're faced with is with the twofold problem that we're faced with is that space that we have, because we have a limited amount of space, and the participation of clubs that are using that space effectively. And one of the things, again, I will give all the kudos to staff on this one, that they got card clubs that joined together that were meeting and taking a room up. That was a very large room that could accommodate over 100 people, and there were 12 people in there. And they finally combined together, and now they're all happy and they're working together. The definition is 75%. I don't know. I agree that you have to have an idea what the criteria is. Right now, we had a minimum of keeping it of just people who are on the list. So I don't know where we're going to go with this. I really don't. Riley, you're still up at the microphone?
Yes, sir.
Sir, don't look at me in that tone of voice. It's when we talk about it, I think one of the troubling things and questions that's come up is that how are they going to measure that? If we're willing to say that it's going to be 75% as a point of time throughout the year once, that's fine. Okay, is it going to be, quarterly? I don't know. That's a question that you guys as staff have to answer, because you're the ones that have to, capture this. And again, one of the things is that when we're looking at this, Jerry, and not directed directly to you, but to everybody, clubs, and I'm going to use, there's a club out here who 10 years ago had 1,000 members. Right now, they're below 100. One of the criteria is there should have been a hand up a couple of years ago to say, we're losing members, we don't know what to do, and this is where staff and Phil and them can get involved to help them. And I think one of the ideas behind this was to put in the idea that, hey, my participation is going down, I need help. I don't need to sign up people to keep a charter, I need to figure out how to make my club viable to move forward. That's my own thoughts.
And I fully understand, George, this is not intended to be punitive, but rather helpful.
Absolutely.
And also end up with good space allocation, so those who need space get it, and those who don't get, or don't need as much, get less space. So I'm all on board with what we're trying to accomplish here, but I'm with Sue. The RR&Ps are designed to give guidance to the leadership of clubs, and if they don't know whether the standard is measured once a quarter, measured once every 6 months, measured once a year, I mean, we're not giving them the guidance that I think they're entitled to. That's all.
I'd like to just share that when we had discussion about the 75%, the committee was not looking at 75% on a weekly, monthly basis. They were looking at an annual. If you had 100 members in your club, what we were looking at is 75 of those members should have used that club activity somewhere during that year. It didn't matter whether a club member attended every single event, or maybe they only went to that club one time the whole year. It still justified that 75 of their membership out of 100 used that club activity.
I'm fully supportive, Donna, and I think that's a very reasonable minimum standard. I have no problem at all with that. I think we ought to tell them.
Sue?
I agree. Just tell them that.
Okay?
Okay.
And that would clarify what you're asking.
Thank you. Ann?
But are we doing their space allocation based on the fact that you may only have 75% of those, you may have a large portion of them who only use it once a year? That's what concerns me, because if we're giving them a large space and we have very little utilization on a consistent basis, then we're not using our space effectively and efficiently.
What we were looking at here is charter, a club charter, whether a club was a viable chartered club that Sun City West community wanted. And it was not used for space utilization. It was used for a club charter.
Equity.
Okay, thank you for
Formation.
clarifying that for me, Donna.
Uno momento. Sharon? Microphone, please.
Sorry. Will staff at least look at the possibility also of how 6-month residents fit in this? Because, for example, with bridge clubs, the Canadians are here and they all play bridge. They're only here for anywhere from 4 to 6 months. So if you looked at this outside those 4 to 6 months, you won't see any of them.
Well, Sharon, we just had the discussion that this is a year, it's a span in time of a year.
Right.
And a maximum participation, I think what we're looking at is a point in time of a maximum participation on a yearly basis. Is that what we're talking about?
George, can I chime in for a sec? So, it's Katie. So if you
Hi,
look at,
Katie.
if you look at the item on the screen that you're about to approve, it says 75% per month and 75% per year. So I'm in the process of designing the reports with Riley, what he wants those reports to see. We can very simply have a report, how many unique visitors based on the membership roster at that time were in the club during that month. And you can run that report every month. So if you have 6-month visitors, they're not a member of the club, they're not on the roster during that off month, so it wouldn't affect that percentage. So you'll have it by month, you'll have it by year. If you choose to do a space utilization study, you would be determining what your benchmarks are at that point. But this would just be the 75% participation based on item 7 in front of you right now.
George, if I may, echoing something Donna and Katie have just said. First of all, the 75%, et cetera, is under the maintaining a charter requirement on this policy, or excuse me, RR&P. Above it, it talks about clubs having such designation R, and D, which we're adding, simply says including participation. It doesn't say 75% participation, so utilization may be based on what kind of the average need is for a club, versus keeping a charter, which is below that, is based on the 75% membership participation. Two entirely different things, and we haven't defined specifically what participation means for space utilization, nor do I think we're really in a position to do that. That's something, Riley, you and your team will be doing, kind of juggling all the various parameters.
Absolutely. I concur on that one. I think that makes sense. So right now, what we have, is there more discussion on this? Because we knew this was going to be a to-do. Right now, we're looking at the 75% as maintaining a club charter, not space, not whatever. What we've had is we've had discussion that says we need a definition of what this is, okay? Now, we have this for approval right now. We have a motion and a second, and we want to approve it. Are we wanting to not approve this portion of this until there's a definition? Or are we going to allow a definition to be written today to be added to this and approval? That's my question. Yes, Jim?
I can't vote, I'm with Sue and Gary, I can't vote for it until you clear it up. I think it's horrible.
well,
I think
Jim-
it's- if you don't tell the clubs what they need to do to reach 75%, it's a waste of time. Every rule that you make needs a policeman, first of all, and it needs a guideline, and we aren't giving it to the clubs.
Well, Jim, that's what I just said, if you were listening. What I'm asking,
I said, well, I'm not going to vote for this because of that. So I started out saying the same thing.
well, no, Jim, I'm asking you the question. If we're not gonna vote for this, you're saying, as it written, if there is an amendment to this for a definition, will we go forward with it? It's either yes or no.
Yes.
You are okay if we have a definition? And we can add a definition right now.
It's up to you.
No, that's up to you guys. Sue?
Please.
I think it should go back, and an individual or a committee should kind of work on the wording. I don't think we should take our time now to try to define it. I think it should go back, and we'll vote on it next time around.
I share Sue's view. Our efforts to craft language have always been a major struggle here.
Amen.
And Donna, your committee has already thought this through. It's just a question of finding the right place in which to insert such a definition. So it's not even that you have substantively a question about what you want to say. It's just the right place within the RR&Ps to say it. I suggest we send it back, let Donna's committee just deal with it and bring it back, and we'll be fine.
Well,
So-
or either the committee or else Donna and Riley could maybe just work out a statement. I think what Donna said before in describing it to us, if you put that into it, I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
I-
we'll be fine.
Donna?
Well, I think that under maintaining a club charter A, 75%, I think we could just under A put a 1 and give the clear definition of what 75% is. And again, just stating that 75% is based on annual club membership having 75% of its membership participate in a club activity during that year.
All right, the consensus of the board is they want to send this back to committee, Donna. So
Okay.
you can send it back to committee, have the wording put up there, have it ready for the workshop next time?
Okay?
Okay, so with that, you will withdraw this motion, right? To approve this?
I will withdraw the motion then.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving right along. Okay, 7.16, Vehicle Study Program. Sharon?
I move that the governing board approve a 6-month Sun City West autonomous vehicle pilot study, including the construction of a solar electric station.
Is there a second to this motion? Second. I have a second by Roberta.
George, I'd like to start the discussion with a couple of the pieces of information.
Un momento, please.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for this. There is open discussion. Sharon, go right ahead.
Sorry, didn't mean to need out of order. I spent the last 3.5 hours of my day yesterday sitting with the state legislators that are here in our area, and I got asked a couple times by some people on the board regarding the taxes and why I was using the word that part of this services would be that we were trying to set up would be funded with taxes. So I wanted to make sure that you all understood that Prop 400 is a sales tax of 0.5 cent that you all pay and have been paying for over 40 years. So there was a Prop 100, a 200, a 300, and a 400. And come 2022 on the ballot, there will be a Prop 400 extension for, again, extending that amount. The amount collected last year was $880 million. It goes toward transit services, light rail, buses, roads, bridges, unlike HERF money, which is your lottery money and your sales tax on gasoline, can only go to roads, bridges, streets. So there's two different kinds of money. The sales tax is what I'm talking about because the state legislature gets to put a ballot issue out, and they have to approve a portion of that. That's what the state legislature is trying to make sure that we have never had the money used out here in the West Valley. So this is why they're looking at the funding and saying, okay, how do we give this money back out to the communities that have been paying for it in the West Valley when most of the transit services, light rail in particular, but most of the other transit services have all been going to the East Valley. So that's one of the reasons why we were talking about the tax money. It's not like they're going to give some new tax or build something else or do something different. They're just trying to allocate it in a different way. So that's what the state legislators are looking at. And on the pros and cons list that I sent you, I'm sure you all have others that you might like to add or make comments about. That'd be fine too. I tried to put up the list of, they were out in your packet about what they were. You also asked me if there was charts about how many calls or how many rides we gave in Sun City West, so I included both of those. These are for the first, is that me? Okay, sorry. That is the trips for the first 2 quarters of 2020 in the Sun City West as far as vehicle trips and where we go, where we take people. We have never advertised at all for Northwest Valley Connect. So we do pick people up to take them to the rec centers. We know that if we advertise more, that it's all by word of mouth. So if somebody says, can you take me to the rec center? Somebody else tells somebody else, and then we get a new person. And that's how when we started 4 years ago, we had 500 calls the last quarter of the first year we opened. This last year, we had 23,000 calls and 17,000 rides, and a lot of them are done with volunteers. We have about 50 volunteers, so not everything is a paid ride. So we were asked by Chris to help with this project. That's kind of where this started to begin with. So to that, I just want to make sure that was out there so you had some idea about what the taxes were. I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody had them.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. We have a motion, a second. There's a discussion's been open. Ann?
What happens if Prop 400 is not extended?
It's just a reallocation. We're still having other funding sources. It's not just the state legislature. That would be in addition to, it has nothing to do with the pilot. It's trying to be used to allocate what goes forward after the pilot. So this, as of 2022, they're looking at all these different projects in the West Valley. This is one of those projects.
And what are those other funding sources? Are those taxpayer money?
No, they're outside, they're firms, USAA, State Farm, different insurance companies are trying to set their actuarial tables, and they're looking for information. So they're willing to fund all kinds of different things. AARP funded the one in Las Vegas for over $500,000. This particular project will run around $1.3 million to $1.5 million, and it will be funded that way.
Thank you, Ann. Jerry?
Two questions, please. Sharon, if the board chooses to approve going forward with the pilot project today, does that in fact mean the pilot project will occur, or it's subject to other contingencies like getting the private funding?
It's subject to other contingencies. If it's not completely paid for, it doesn't happen.
And secondly, if the board approves going forward with the pilot project, does this involve any expenditure by the rec center?
None. Covering the $800,000 was added into what we needed to cover. That's why it's at $1.3 million to $1.5 million. And that $800,000 was to build the solar structure. It would be yours when you were done, when everything was done. You can use it to make revenue. If you wanted to do it that way, you could charge people to come and park their cars here. Not as a parking lot, but if I'm visiting the rec centers and I want to use the electric charging station, you could charge them. That's part of what you could do with it. You could take it all down and sell the solar panels if you don't want it. It's yours, so it's up to you to what you want to do with it.
Roberta, you got anything?
Yeah, why is it a con that involvement might want residents wanting more services?
Well, then you have to provide them. That's kind of what happens. If you give them this is one of the reasons that we went to the state legislators to begin with, was to say, if we run the pilot program and everybody likes it, one of the things that came up yesterday was, could you extend the project maybe another 3 months and actually get the shuttles to go between rec centers, for example? So if we did that and we could have all that still paid for, and I see that it's more people really want to ride those, and you start including that, they're going to say, well, okay, great, the pilot's over. You don't just stop it, you have to continue it. So that's kind of what we were looking at. How do we do that?
Anything else, Roberta?
No, I just don't think that's a con.
I agree. Jim?
Yeah, when I reviewed the first process, I was very uncomfortable with where it is. I still am. I think the facility that they're talking about has been proposed to use for 20 different things, including a Boomers building and a whatever. And it's probably the last space that we have for anything. I don't know what, but to use it for something like a pilot program that may exist, may not, we don't even know who's going to run it, who's going to not do it. I'm just not in favor of it yet. I think there's a lot to be asked before we're ready to do it.
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
there's a lot of more questions than there are answers.
Thank you, Jim. Bob?
I agree with Jim. I'm just not
Don't
quite
ever
sure
do
yet.
that. Don't ever do
Oh,
that.
no, Jim's a great guy.
That's the worst thing you can do.
Okay. No, I think, we got to really get some more information together and all.
Okay. Donna, any comments?
No comment.
Sue?
I don't think I have any questions. I do agree that it seems like a new thing and a little scary to step into, but that is progress, and it is a way to move us ahead. So I think it's a service that our residents would benefit from.
Well, on that note, when we talk about this, one of the things is that because it's going to be on our property and staff is going to be involved with this, General Manager, you have any comments or questions about this?
Thank you, George. Yes, we put a slideshow together just to kind of shed a little bit of light as to where we are and maybe how we can maybe assist in moving this forward and or just assessing this entire project as a whole. So if you don't mind, don't you have access to that on your screens or not, but you're being asked today for a request for the governing board to approve an electric vehicle pilot program and site location on the R.H. Johnson property. But there are potential and future financial obligations and liabilities that do present themselves. As far as a no cost to the organization, as a general manager and staff, we were kind of just like to bring some of these issues forward for you to assess. About 4 years ago, Katie was involved with potentially developing a trolley service that has been talked about where it would connect all of our recreation centers, funded by the rec centers, being the organization that we are, but knowing what you know in this brochure as the rec center managers, when it talks about utilities and facilities and properties and golf and programs and everything that we provide with the revenues that are generated through your annual fees, transportation is not part of it. So about a year or so ago, we were invited to a meeting with Chris Barker and others to talk about autonomous vehicles. Presentation was made. We looked at some communities in Europe. We looked at a model that was going on in Las Vegas down on the Fremont Street and how they're moving people around. Moving people around is a good thing. They do it at airports. They do it in large cities. Public transportation has been around for a very long time. There are some issues when you're talking about autonomous cars with no drivers, in a population, average age 74, who oftentimes can have problems muting a phone. So that causes a little bit of concern. We brought those issues forward, and the meetings kind of evolved further into potentially electric cars with drivers being provided as a pilot program. Okay. Again, we sat through some meetings and kind of showed the pros and cons, as Sharon has brought forward, to kind of assess and address these types of things. And the one thing that came out, though, if this was going to move forward, an electric vehicle solar charging station was going to be needed. George and I attended a meeting out at the fire station, Deer Valley Road. They have a covered structure there. Chris was looking at potentially working with the fire district to see if that could be used as an infrastructure site since it's already built. Could we use that? Could they expand on that particular project? I'm not privy to what the discussion was amongst the fire district as to their decision-making, but it came back no. So then the request then came back to us, looking for a space on our campus to house 10 to 24 smart cars for an electrical charging station for this pilot program. Can you advance it? Thank you, Katie. Additionally, discussion has been talked about an electric-powered shuttle bus that would not leave the campus here at R.H. Johnson, but also maybe travel through the parking lot, over to Fry's, down to Walgreens, and back again, linking all of the little venues around our rec center here at R.H. Johnson, be it the library, men's club, dog park, bowling center, whatnot, as far as a shuttle moving people around as part of the project. Regardless, a rec center charging station a site selection would be needed. Katie? We asked for a 3D version of what that might look like after the discussion was kind of talked about as to where this thing might be. I know Carl and Russ were very active working with Chris, looking at various sites around our campus here as to which would make the best site, looking at use of facilities. Russ was basically convinced that the position in front of the library as we sit here today would be the least effective as far as displacing anybody using our facilities and the like, and as far as any infrastructure underground that we'd have to worry about. This became probably, as far as a staff's perspective, the best option. But again, $800,000 needed for the design, acquisition, and installation of this program for a short-term project seems a bit steep. I don't know who the investors are. There's a bunch of unresolved issues where we sit here today to make this decision, and I'd just like to share with some of them with you. Once this thing is built, who owns it? There's going to be somebody who puts money forward, $800,000, and I don't think after 6 months they're going to walk away and say, here you go. They may, but again, I have no contract. I have nothing to share with you today as far as any kind of proof that will happen. But somebody, I would assume, is going to want to be reimbursed for that investment. So who does that? Do we keep the parking shelter and sell the solar power projects? Don't know. But typically, those solar power options on top of roofs come with 15 to 20-year commitments to help offset the cost and pay for those with the electricity that you generate from using those. If after 6 months this pilot program goes away, who's going to restore our property back to the way it is right now? That has not been determined. So there's demolition costs, there's removal costs, restoration costs, and there's no contractual agreements as we sit here right now to make those decisions. Secondly, or additionally, there's insurance and liability questions that are still out there. This is on private property. It's public money, private property, and you've got the whole insurance and liability game to play when it comes to that. So looking at the exposure that the rec centers could face is something that I think we should further discuss. Cost recovery, timelines, as far as if we inherit this thing, how long do it take us to pay this thing back? Charging people to charge their cars obviously is going to make a little bit of money, but along with that would come the management, the operational procedures, any kind of supervision and accounting that goes along with running a program, i.e. a business, would have to be incorporated into this program. And then back to Jim's comment, on a long-term site, we're in the process of trying to get a master plan moved along in the middle of a COVID epidemic, but really what is the best use for that site in front of the library on that intersection, and is it a transportation station? So these kinds of questions, we were trying to move along, work with Chris, work with our staff to try to get some answers to these things, but these are some of the things, at least I would hope you would expect staff and management to bring forward. Talking with the health officials, talking with other people as far as transportation needs go within this community, I'm not sure having an electric car station here for people to have to figure out a way to get here to use one is really something that we really want to tackle. Because I don't think it's as far as seniors go, I don't think it's necessarily a lack of a vehicle that they have. It's really a lack of the physical assistance that they need and the cognitive ability to use these cars. I'm all for public transportation. My son works for Apple. He talks a whole different language than I do. But there are programs out there that you can use your cell phone, look for a car near you. If you have the appropriate insurance, you have your routing number on your phone that links to your bank, you can go pop a door on a Mercedes down in downtown Seattle and drive it 10 miles, park it. They charge your phone, they charge your bank, and you're where you need to be. So modernization and urbanization has come a long, long way. But advancing this, Katie, thank you. So the pilot program that we're being asked, really, I just want to lay out there, what is it, right? A pilot program is a small-scale preliminary study. They want to gather data and do a lot of things when it comes to cost, evaluating the feasibility of this thing prior to the implementation of a full-scale project. Well, what is that project? George and I have had several meetings on this. Why us? What are we here for? What are we trying to accomplish? Ultimately, I think it's public transportation. So moving on, Katie. Thank you. People who have public transportation within the area in which we live, City of El Mirage, Glendale, Peoria, Surprise, Tolleson, Valley Metro, Maricopa County Association of Governments. There's one word there that I want to key on, and that's government. All of these public transportation folks are government outlets that have funding sources dedicated to provide this type of transportation. I've been in the government game for a very long time, got a bachelor's degree in public administration. I know a little bit about public use and what it costs. But one of the big things here that we want to talk about, and have our attorney in the room when we do it, are how are public funds and private property united? That is a big question. Can you use tax dollars on private property? One thing that comes to mind that I'd like to share with you is we had $2.1 million sitting on my desk a few months ago. We gave it back. Why? Because we are 501c4 and we are not eligible to receive those monies, i.e. the PPP program when it came to COVID. So the Northwest Valley has done a study. This dates back to 2013. And so pulling information from this, I'd like to just share a couple of things with you relative to Sun City West. We are unincorporated, which means that we have no existing dedicated funding source for transit service. Our funds are depicted in this document as to what they are spent on, primarily recreational need. So in order to ensure that transit service has a reliable revenue source, Sun City would need to establish a community-specific funding mechanism. Not there yet. Unfortunately, Sun City Area Transit is now defunct, and it's a defunct service due to funding shortfalls. Now, I can say that they may have missed their marketing mark by calling it SCAT, which makes you kind of turn your nose up anyway, but that's a question for another day. So the relatively high average age of the Sun City West residents creates a significant demand for paratransit travel. This is right out of the study, basically, which is expected to remain fairly constant in the future. What's paratransit? It's dial-a-ride. That exists. This is the map. This is the service area consisting of Sun City, Surprise, Sun City West, El Mirage, Youngtown, and the like. So this service currently exists. Moving on, Katie. And as Sharon was talking about, 17,500 annual requests from Northwest Valley dial-a-ride have been requested. At $4 a trip, I may be wrong, but if you equate that to the $800,000 needed to build this pilot program, that can account for over 200,000 rides. And in 2019, the Sun City West dial-a-ride serviced 800 rides, or 4% of that 17.5. So there are existing choices out there within Sun City West that do exist. We've got a dial-a-ride program. There are taxi services to get people around, Uber, Lyft, airport shuttles, rec center travel programs that take people from anywhere from the Rose Bowl to the Grand Canyon. Now, in the day of COVID, there are delivery services for just about anything. Start with Amazon, go to the grocery store, go to Costco. They will bring things to your front door. And as well as golf carts were mentioned. Now, the smart cars being proposed here, basically, I've heard comments that this could take people to golf courses. Well, from a practicality standpoint, a functionality standpoint, Pat deals with 300,000 rounds of golf a year. That's 600,000 routes to and from golf courses. Right now, golf carts are allowable on roads as well as the turf, so they serve a function. Trying to get two people and two sets of golf clubs in a smart car would be a challenge. So by vehicle design, golf carts do serve a tremendous purpose. They were brought in here at the beginning of this community. We are a golf-associated and related community, which is very, very important. And if the golf carts somehow went away or got displaced by a smart cart, Pat would be standing in front of you come budget time asking for 600 golf carts, because if you typically manage a golf course, there are 75 to 80 golf carts needed per golf course. We don't have that problem because people have their own venue and their own facilities here. So as far as Sun City West findings, as far as the study goes, most vehicular trips are relatively local. We've got shopping and recreational needs primarily listed here. 51% of the people who responded to the survey say transportation needs are being met, and over 97% don't use public transportation. So again, moving on, Katie. Government pretty much handles transportation, and I think for a reason. And the reason is subsidy. The American travel agencies provide $66 billion worth of transportation services over the course of a year in 2017, which was broken down to $1.21 per passenger mile, and 91.9% of those were subsidized. So when it comes to funding and who's paying for this, donations, sponsors, proposed legislation, I know Prop 400 is out there. There are federal programs, partnerships with local governments. You can raise your owner member fees, or you can have special assessments to pay for transportational needs. Prop 400, as Sharon mentioned, half-cent sales tax. It was a 20-year program, primarily funding loop freeway systems, expanding freeways, widening freeways, growing the transit program, 20 miles worth of light rail, and as far as improving the arterial grids within the network of the valley. Prop 400 goes away December 31st, 2025. There is probably going to be another election, but that's dice in hand. Don't know at this point today whether or not it's going to be approved or not, but that's where we sit with Proposition 400. Other funding types when it comes to transportation, Federal Transit Authority and the Surface Transportation Programs, list there what they do approve and what they do fund. Again, back to the attorney, can you use federal money, federal tax dollars in private property? I don't know. Moving on. So the Sun City recommendations were to create 6 local deviated fixed routes that circulate around these, in and around these communities. It was recommended that we form an intergovernmental agreement to help offset funding and activity costs related to transit with the Northwest Valley. I'm skimming through this as fast as I know how. And the proposed circulator route serving Sun City West would connect residents with the R.H. Johnson Rec Center to the Surprise Park and Ride. Next picture here, Jerry, I apologize. I snipped this out of the plan, so there's red lines on here. If you can't see them, I apologize. But you can see here on the gold line depicted basically R.H. Johnson out to Grand Avenue and back up to the Surprise Park and Ride would be the program there. As far as the circulator that they're proposing, the proposed route passes through Sun City West commercial corridors, be it Camino del Sol and Meeker Boulevard. One potential drawback brought up within the study that it does not connect to the Del Webb Medical Center. If you were to do that, you would then eliminate the connection to R.H. Johnson. So Sun City has a circulator route that would deviate potentially from the fixed route potential service, but in doing that, they basically said that to save costs, they would then have to waive the ADA dial-a-ride services requirement that currently exists. And so providing that circulator program, as far as the plan goes, it's estimated back in 2013 that that plan and that project would cost over $2.1 million using Prop 400 and the other federal funds depicted earlier to help offset the cost of that program. Again, not sure if they exist in the future and not sure if we're eligible to receive since we are private property. Moving forward, other amenities typically associated with transit on the public side are signage. They currently don't exist right now within our community. So bus route signs, information posts would be put up along the route of the bus trail. You would have benches needed, shelters, as well as trash receptacles, and someone would be responsible for cleaning and maintaining those. So again, pilot program is one thing, but it typically is going to lead to another full-scale project or get the data to get you in that direction. And I just want to share that with you today to let you know kind of from a staffing perspective and how we were dealing with Chris at the roundtables talking about, you know, what does this entail for us? We just want to shed a little light as to where this program is. Again, moving forward, Katie, one more time. Again, I think, and staff, as well as comments, you know, from the medical folks, really say that it's the physical assistance and the loss of cognitive ability that really is one of the driving forces here within a retirement community, and that gets us to where we are now. One recommendation I think that we could make to maybe help foster this is a parking lot 6.7 miles down the road in Sun City, which is also included within the area of Dial-A-Ride, which is within the Northwest region. But this is a photo of their parking lot as it exists today. Everything you see in the parking lot there are solar structures. And so Sun City is also a nonprofit and also not eligible for any tax credits relative to any kind of solar systems. But as far as the infrastructure goes, for covering 24 cars, it exists 6.7 miles away as opposed to spending $800,000 and building your own. So decision is yours.
Bill, thank you for a very detailed discussion on this. Appreciate it. Directors, once again, I'm going to go around. Sharon, first?
Yeah. First of all, it would have been nice, Bill, at some point in time, if you had contacted me or talked to me, because the information that you are using is outdated. And Katie knows this as well. There is a current study out that was done for 2020. This information that's in there dated 2013 is exactly why we asked for the study for 2020.
I would like to just respond that Katie is part of our planning team.
I understand. She's
and
on
the
our
fact,
committee.
And the fact that this is not prepared prior to is that we had, I don't know when we were notified that this was going to be on the agenda, but we had absolutely really limited time in which to put this together. I think George was involved in at least the knowledge of this thing, at least trying to be prepared, as well as the recommendation to kind of hold off until we could vet this a little further with other public meetings and the like. And so, I apologize that this wasn't vetted, but this was being changed up until 8 o'clock this morning.
Again, I'd just like to state, if you wanted information, why wouldn't you come and ask me? I'm just curious, because I've asked for meetings before, and you have not returned the calls. So if you wanted to have a conversation so we could have discussed this before, I would have been more than happy to do that. And at this point, I don't even know where to start with the information that you gave. Because, first of all, let me just give you one example. The shuttle always has someone in it. We don't put a shuttle, an autonomous vehicle out on the road that does not have a person in it.
I don't believe I said that.
You said that people were older here and they were in their 70s and 80s and that they wouldn't be able, there would be no one there. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Because the intent was the shuttle does not move around without people in it. We have someone there to help people on and off. It holds handicapped wheelchairs. So they have to be locked down. There's someone on board specifically for that.
I believe my comment was the first initial contact that we had with Chris Barker was about autonomous program. Okay. And after the discussion with Chris, that's when the discussion went to the electric cars with drivers.
That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the shuttle, the autonomous
Same
shuttle.
thing.
Not the same thing.
Directors, Jim?
Well, that's a conversation between them. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Jim, any discussion?
No, I just don't think we need to, I think it's way too early to pass it, so I'm voting no.
Okay. No. Donna?
No questions.
I have to wait for Sue. Roberta?
We have to start somewhere. I mean, the whole thing of electric charging stations and to have, these kinds of vehicles and some type of transportation. I had an accident in my car. I'm down, okay, I have a rental car right now, thank God for my insurance. But otherwise, I would not have a car. That kind of, having that available would have been perfect, since the majority of my riding around and doing everything is in Sun City West.
I hear you on that one. And I'm sorry, Ann, any comments? Roberta, are you done? I'm sorry. She nodded her head. I was just looking.
Well, first of all, this says it's an autonomous vehicle pilot study, so that indicates that there will not be anybody driving or assisting people, that it's going to be autonomous. But as a director for this association, I feel I have a duty to members to have more information and have some of their input before I would vote on anything. I just feel like there are too many unanswered questions. This would approve us for the autonomous vehicle study. Has nothing to do with the shuttle if a shuttle isn't autonomous. This is only for the autonomous vehicle study, and it would include the construction of the solar electric station. I just feel there are too many unanswered questions. I would like to have an opportunity for the public to weigh in on this if this is a direction we want to go, but I can't approve it the way it is right now.
Jerry, any comment?
I know some of Sharon's efforts to bring this to the attention to staff and to the board. This isn't the first time it's surfaced, and reluctantly I say I don't think staff has covered itself with glory on its responsiveness and attempts to deal with this. And it comes across more of a, how can I kill the project, first through delay? It just is not sounding very good, Bill.
I just want to respond to that, Jerry, by saying we have attended every meeting that has been brought to our attention regarding this project for the last year and a half. Chris Barker has been working with Russ, has been working with Carl, has been working with Katie, myself, and everyone else on this committee. We did not make the recommendation to bring this forward today. We did not think the casserole's cooked. There are a lot of unanswered questions that we were trying to get answers to, and the request was made to George to put this on the agenda. It showed up. So I don't think it's unresponsiveness to us. We return phone calls, we attend meetings, and we have been working on this for over a year and a half. At the last minute, you're being asked to vote on an $800,000 project that is saying that there is no cost to the rec centers of Sun City West. We are the recreation centers of Sun City West. We are not a government.
Understood. So Sharon was incorrect when she said you weren't returning phone calls.
No. And Jerry, I'll answer that. I'll answer that after I get through with my other director, just a moment, okay? Sue, any comments or questions? Okay. Katie and I had a meeting about this with Director Haddock, and we said, this really hasn't been properly vetted with the community. The community does not know all the ins and outs and all that goes with it. What was offered was a slot on our mid-year meeting to bring this up there, and 3 other public forums to get the input of the community. Then it was asked for an up and down vote at this meeting. So that's where we are. As a director, no matter what it is, you have the opportunity to tell me that you want an up or down vote on anything. And that's where we are sitting right now. My opinion is a little more things, because as the president, I have to represent the association. What my personal concerns are meaningless. What my personal wants are meaningless. And under the Attorney General opinion on 103, he says directs that the expenditure of public monies must be for public purposes in which the expenditure does not exceed the worth or direct benefits employed by the public body. That's number 1. Number 2, was stipulating that public monies not be misused and expensed only for the authority of public purposes. This is one of the situations that I had to sit down and say, as the association, we are a private association. And again, when we would be accepting public monies, would that allow public access to anything and everything we have? I don't know. That was sent out to Mr. Hazelwood, okay? But as seeing the idea of what happened with our PPP money was the example that we had. It was public money, we're a private organization, we're not entitled to it. If we are, it would have been open to the public. That was first and foremost. Second question I have is this situation would have been us as a board encumbering future boards with an expense. We can't do that. That's against our bylaws. That's why we have a yearly budget. That's why we have a yearly general manager's budget. And that is one of the criterias that I think, on this situation, I don't have a vote, okay? I can only express my opinion. My opinion is looking out for the best interests of the association on this. And that is those are the two criteria they had. Taking public money for a private organization, okay? Attorney General says that's a no-no, okay? Second and foremost, is it something that may come up in the future? Sure. Has it been properly vetted with the association, the owner members? I don't think so. So I think that's where we need to move forward with, and that's my opinion only. I didn't say that. I'm sorry. That's not directed to you. That's just the thoughts that along the way that we had with this, and there was an ample opportunity to have this vetted publicly.
Understood. And the
Thank
issues
you.
you raise are important to resolve. It was my understanding that if we approved it today, it expressed our willingness to go forward, but we still needed to resolve that. Contracts aren't signed, and we need to resolve a lot of those issues. For example, if the public money is not available to us, then the project's going to die. I mean, it's really very simple. So my expectation was today was merely to show a willingness to proceed with it, subject to resolution.
Subject to what was put out as far as the motion was, it was either go forward with it or not. That's what the up and down vote was for. And that is, again, obviously, I can look around the room and say there was quite a bit of information that needs to be really vetted very deeply before you commit an association to something that it's not going to happen in tomorrow. But the thing is that we would be approving it, and that's my own opinion. I just say I wasn't quite comfortable with the idea of saying, yay, go forward with it, and that's what the motion is that we have out there, a yay or nay.
All fair, George. Are we willing to say we're interested in this project subject to resolution of issues? I mean, there are the legal issues, the tax and money issues, and they're all real issues. I understand that. Bill, some of the issues you raised, they're real issues. What happens when it's over? Who owns it? Do we own it? Do we have to take it down? Do we insist someone else? I mean, those are real issues that are dealt with in a contract that we're not signing today and not saying we will sign carte blanche. The question is, are they willing to explore with us doing it on this site? We're willing, but we got to resolve issues. Now, I understand that wasn't the motion.
Okay, listen, that's what we have. We have a motion, we have a second, okay? We have discussion about the motion. The other parts that go with this are something we can take on whatever we want down the road or whatever, but I have to keep us focused on this portion.
George, I was thinking of maybe making an amendment to the motion, but I wanted to kind of gauge the temperament of the board as to whether we're willing to say, we're interested, but we have to resolve some issues going down, so we're going to work with you to see if we can.
If you'd like to do that as a director, you have that obligation to do that. However, personal suggestion would be, I think either the idea was a yay or nay on this, the way it's written. If it's yay, it's yay. If it's nay, then you go back to drawing board and start afresh and anew. That again, as Bill pointed out there, this project has gone through 5 morphs to what it originally was intended to what it is today. And I think that somewhere along the lines, we need to put the brakes on and say, look, if this is something that's going to go forward or whatever, we need to start fresh and new, not have, well, we did this and this, and we have this There's information out there. That's my own opinion, but you have that obligation to decide to do whatever you like as a director.
I feel so empowered, George. Thank you. And I do recall when we were voting on investment in equities, we went through 3 separate motions rather than amending. So I think I got the drill down. I have no problem in voting on the current motion, but I would like the board to be thinking, and maybe bring it up at the workshop. If we don't express an interest, they need to go elsewhere. If we express an interest, then we can work at the various issues that have been raised, which are fine. They're real issues. I'm not denying that, and we do need to resolve them. But I think they need some expression of, yeah, we're interested, or no, we're not interested, but we can say interested, subject to working out all the various issues.
Well, I think the other problem with this one too, Jerry, is the reason there was an up and down vote is there was an outside pressure from Mr. Barker to say it's either here or he's going to look somewhere else. And that's, and again, I come along with all those things that go along with that. I'm sorry. Roberta, you got something else? Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm just saying that how can we bring it before the community and assess the community reaction if we don't at least, if we vote down this motion, at least have a motion that would pursue so the community is aware of it and have the information, and then we can go from there.
I understand what you're saying. And again, what I have here is that I have a motion, I have a second, we've had discussion on it, okay? There comes a point where I will end the discussion and call for the question. If you'd like to amend it, that's fine. But I think that what you have right now, to amend something that's been ongoing for a number of years, I don't think would be in the best interest of anybody that's involved. I think you need, if you're going to start, you need to start fresh and anew. That's my own opinion. Is there any other discussion on this, Sue?
Well, it seems like it would be fairly easy to find out if we're able to accept the money or not.
Well,
And if we can't, well, then it's a moot point.
well,
So does that mean that you need to call up the attorney and ask the question, or call up someone?
well, we have reached out to the attorney. The idea is this too. Not that we've had an answer on that one because again, the public funds have not been approved. So this is where we are. We have an idea that we have money that may be approved on a transportation bill that could be, that might be. There's so many ifs that go into this. It's like a cauldron of putting your hand into the if pie. That's what it is. I hear you loud and clear on that one. I think with the idea of the PPP, that was, again, government dollars that were out there and said, no, we're not eligible, it would kind of be the heads up that this probably will not be eligible either. Just,
I just think that that's a pretty critical thing to find out about.
Okay.
And it seems like you would be able to ask that of someone and get the answer, instead of,
George, can I add a few things to this? It's Katie.
I'm sorry, Katie. I hear you and I'm looking, where is she?
Yeah. So I've been serving on the Sun City Transit Committee with Sharon, with Surprise, El Mirage, Youngtown, Maricopa Association of Governments, and Valley Metro for like 4 years. We've been studying this issue. I'm a huge proponent of public transit. But I think a fundamental question that this board hasn't decided is, not only do you want to support transit, do you want to support public transit, or do you want to support a private transportation service here in Sun City West for our residents? And that was one of the things we struggled with. When we first envisioned a trolley or a little circulator, it was going to be show your rec card to get on, get off, get around the rec centers. If you accept public funding, including this pilot program, it is open to the public. We do have a growing concern about homeless folks coming into the community. That's just a fact. They have a similar program like this in the city of Peoria. I've ridden it. I wanted to take my daughter on it. It was going to be a way for her to get home from after-school activities. They have a lot of homeless hopping on that program. It's free. You hop on, you take it from Arrowhead Mall up to the other neighborhoods. The kids aren't riding it. I've talked to the drivers. Because of that, because it being public, and you can't prevent people from getting on a public transportation, the other folks won't use it. And so that is my fear with Sun City West, is that population we're trying to serve going to be scared off from using this if it's public transit? There is no monies in Prop 400 for a circulator that would go around this community. And so in that latest study that Sharon referenced, the recommendations from Valley Metro was we would have to come up with a private funding source like the cities, which have transportation taxes. Otherwise, they do not pay for those circulators. They recommended incorporation, which I know is not popular. They recommended a special taxing district, which I know is not popular. So any kind of public funding in the long term would have to be matched with some kind of private funds. So my recommendation is this board have a discussion on, do you want to fund public transportation that would connect to Phoenix, allow people from Phoenix to come here, allow us to go to Phoenix, or do you want to concentrate on a circulator that goes through our rec centers and does what the rec centers do best, serve our residents and their active lifestyles? Or thirdly, do you want to support or find some mechanism or give a vote of confidence to what Northwest Valley Connect is doing, which is that underserviced population that don't have cars, or more importantly, don't have the cognitive or physical abilities to get on that public transit. And I don't think any of these services that we've talked about today are going to meet that need. Northwest Valley Connect meets that paratransit need, and I think that's the real issue. There's 3 different kinds of populations you're trying to serve, but fundamentally, before you answer those, do you want public transit in Sun City West connecting to downtown Phoenix, or do you want to concentrate on a local solution where we control the population that gets on those vehicles?
Thank you, Katie.
It's not the motion.
No. Okay, one of the things is, okay, this is getting far off track very quickly. I'm going to call for the question. Okay, the question is, very simply, it was moved that the governing board of 6-month Sun City West autonomous vehicle pilot program, pilot study, including the construction of solar electric station, requires a majority vote of 5 to go forward. I will take a roll call vote on this one. There's no further discussion on this. Jim Young?
No.
Bob? No. Donna?
No.
Sue?
No.
Ann?
No.
Roberta?
Yes.
Jerry?
No.
The noes have it. It is a 7-1. 7, 8, yeah, 7, no, 6-1. 6-1. Sharon is not here to vote on this. The vote would be, the vote is in negative to have this not go forward as the pilot program. Thank you guys so much for this. Next thing up is goal attainment. Oh boy, my bane of existence today. I have to get it up there. General Manager, 15% still on the community master plan. We're holding steady. Revised budget process, Pete is working on that. We are moving diligently ahead. Our charter clubs improvement, with the approval today, we're at 80%. The last piece was going back to committee. Liens and collections we took care of. Confirmations for Arizona Department of Water Resources and our golf courses. Todd is attending that today, if I remember correctly. But my memory's getting better. Okay, virtual meetings and events during COVID-19 time. Katie, I got to put you on the spot. How we doing on our upgrade into the social hall, Palm Ridge, and lecture hall?
We've walked all the properties, we've located where the equipment's going to go. I believe we're still waiting on some of those pieces of equipment to be in, but we are on target to have at least Palm Ridge ready for that mid-year report.
Thank you very much. Okay. Director comments. Jim, first. Bob? Donna?
No.
Sue?
No.
Okay. Ann?
Are we going to talk about the community master plan at the mid-year meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Roberta?
No.
Jerry?
No.
Okay, and the president gets the last comment. I want to wish everybody who is online, hearing here and here, to have the best of the holiday season. I'm sorry?
No remote comments, George?
No, I have none. No, I have remote comments coming after me. I'm first. Remember that. No, I'm only kidding, brother. You know that. The important thing is that be safe for the holiday. There are no other comments on there. We had one question that was started early. That was about, are we going to be involved in the distribution of the COVID vaccine? And we answered that already. That is Maricopa County Health. The other thing, there was a little birdie whispered in my ear, and under comment time, I could say, Mr. Davidson is having a birthday today, so if you see Bob, tell him he's old today. And I just went,
And he's listening.
and he's listening. Good, very good. We can be abusive on that one. First off, I want to thank the directors and staff for all the work they've done, especially with all the policy changes. It is a monumental task every year when we go through it, and each one of the directors have done a tremendous job in putting forward. Bill, thank you for your staff and all that they got on there. Hope your holiday is safe and uneventful. And I like it. With that, seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.